Holy shit, ladies and gentlemen, what a week it has been in sports. The NBA, what a content machine the NBA has been. We'll get into it. But welcome to Season 3, Episode 38 of the Daily Intermission podcast. I'm back in studio. Listen, it was an absolute fail of a day yesterday. So I was like, listen, I'm going to wait out all day. I'm going to consume the NBA trade deadline. I'm going to watch the first round of the Waste Management. And then I'm going to come into the studio and I'll get some call-ins. People will be off work. Well, it was a whiff on my part. I didn't promote it well enough. The Chalkboard app was just crickets, and I'm like, I'm not going to get enough callers to fill out this episode. So I recorded for about like 10 minutes as I've done pre-calling when I have the call-ins, and just kind of set the tone of the episode, then bring in the call-ins, and I did not have enough call-ins, and I wasn't waiting around. I think it was like probably like 9:15, and I was like, no, we're gonna regroup in the morning, and we're gonna get this thing recorded in a full standardized episode. So I apologize about the people who did call in, but we'll regroup. We'll reevaluate the situation and get you back in. But before I get into the pregame show, I must say that this episode is brought to you by Manscaped, and I wrote a little poem. Roses are red, violets are blue. We love shaved balls. How about you? Valentine's Day is coming, and we know just the gift to get that special someone for any and all special occasions. I'd like to petition to make February 13th National Shave Your Balls Day, ensuring every man is well-groomed and ready for whatever Valentine's Day, wherever Valentine's Day takes them. It's time to give the gift that helps over 7 million men around the world. Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Use the code TDI at manscaped.com for 20% off, free shipping. By the way, I didn't write that. That was a script sent by Manscaped. But listen, use the code TDI at manscaped.com. It's an amazing product. Like I said, the Lawnmower 4.0, it takes care of the kid. And it certainly, if you need a new grooming kit, which I'm assuming you do, if you're using, anyway, there's a lot of cringy ways to go about, keeping the lawn up to standard and getting things trimmed. And if you're not using the Manscaped 4.0, well, I hope you either have a semi-equivalent, or not equivalent, but you have something that's, closer to the Manscaped product than, maybe like a one blade Bic. That would be gritty with rust on it. Anyway, we're not getting into it. But continue on in the pregame show, ladies and gentlemen. Watching the Super Bowl. It's an interesting topic. It's Super Bowl weekend. Massive. Chiefs versus Eagles. We talked about it last episode. I am on the Chiefs money line. And I said that, I'm trying to be a little cheeky, saying that I was on the Chiefs because I'd be cheering for the Eagles. Well, it's not as cheeky as I thought, because I don't care about either team. I've got no interest, and I don't really, I don't care about the players. I love football, and I'm excited for a good football game. But now that I've put money on the Chiefs, now I'm cheering for the Chiefs. I thought I was going to cheer for the Eagles and bet on the Chiefs. Now that my money is on the Chiefs, I'm cheering for the Chiefs. So my hedge of the emotional and financial kind of hedge, well, it didn't work out. So I'm on the Chiefs, and I'm looking forward to it. But just continuing on the pregame show, before we get into quarter one with a little bit of NFL chatter, watching the Super Bowl for me is it's unfortunate. And I'm going to blame the New England Patriots and Tom Brady for this. So out of, the first, 27, 28 years of my life, Tom Brady has been to 10 Super Bowls and the Patriots 9. And so during those Super Bowls, I guess not the first three. The first three I was really young and don't really remember. But 6 of them for sure. It's not a great experience, especially if people aren't big football fans. I've tried the Super Bowl party and people asking questions and people getting just there to watch the halftime show, and it's really not enjoyable for me, and it's unfortunate, and I hate that it's this way. And I think that maybe as I mature, I'll get. And I mean, this is a Super Bowl for sure that I'd be able to go to a party and enjoy it. But in the past, I've had to legit watch the Super Bowl alone because I couldn't stand, one, the people that were going against the team I was cheering for, and two, just the people that are just ignorant to the fact that they just don't know football and they're asking questions the whole time, and it just makes for a miserable experience. So yeah, it's a little upsetting that's been the case in the past for watching Super Bowls. But Super Bowl parties are amazing. But I think that you have to watch the game, and there's an etiquette to watching football. I think anyway, I won't get into it. I'm a little picky in terms of who I'm watching football with, and it's obviously the food is amazing, and the halftime show, a lot of people get revved up for it, and obviously the commercial breaks. But I think that during the commercial breaks, during the halftime show, say what you want, do what you want, get loud, but during the play, during the snap, got to dial into the game. You got to figure out what's going on. You got to figure out who's winning this chess match. So just a little etiquette, I guess, in the Super Bowl side of things. And a lot of people wouldn't be as picky as me. And a lot of people aren't as big of football fans as I am, or just even, in general. And that's, an obvious fact. But there's definitely some rules and regulations that I would recommend for people, going to parties and watching. But obviously, it is a celebration, beyond just the game. So I know people enjoy watching it, but listen, enjoy your Super Bowl parties. That being said, I'm not sure what my plans are for the Super Bowl, but regardless of where you are, enjoy the halftime show. Enjoy the food and watch the football game, because I think you'll really enjoy it. But let's get into it. Quarter one, NFL, and like I said, I'm on the Chiefs money line, and we have media day this week. So it's interesting because the week prior to media week and leading up to the Super Bowl, obviously there's a 2-week period between the conference championships and the Super Bowl. It's very quiet during the first week. The Kelsey brothers obviously had their mom on their podcast, and we're buzzing right along, and kind of we're making headlines in that sense. But other than that, the Pro Bowl goes on, and there's not much talk about these two teams, and kind of flies under the radar, which is kind of cool. It gives them a chance to rest up and get some practice in, and then you turn to after the Pro Bowl and the Monday rolls around, and it's media week and media day, and some clown questions being asked, but a lot of celebrities. It seems like every player has their own little station or booth, and they're answering questions, and it's a fun day. So obviously you probably saw some clips from that. Some weird questions asked to Patrick Mahomes, so felt bad for that guy at times. I think Brandon Marshall, kind of clowned him and said that Rihanna told Brandon that Patrick Mahomes, she thought Patrick Mahomes was the greatest quarterback of all time. Kind of clowned him. She didn't say that, and anyway, it was just a whole ordeal. But excited for it. It's going to be an amazing game. But I've got some prop bets for you guys. I told you last episode that I would talk a little bit about the prop bets that I'm looking at. I've bet on 2 already, but I have avoided, I don't know if I'll be on like the kind of the clownish prop bets, like the ones that are very Super Bowl specific, the ones that you would never really bet on outside of the Super Bowl. But I'll give you some narrative on some things that if you're being a huge DeJennifer Aniston, then I will give you some picks. So the coin toss. I mean, I'm not sure why you would bet on the coin toss, but I'm a tails never fails guy. If you're leaning, or if you need someone to kind of lead you in a direction, and if you're feeling like betting on the coin toss, which not sure again why you would, I'm leaning towards tails, because tails never fails, and that's just kind of the narrative and that's what I've gone with for the majority of my life is tails. So tails for the coin toss. Anthem, it's always over. It's always over, because you got to think that they're putting on a show, and you got to think they're going to milk it in some part of these Star Spangled Banner. So I think that the anthem goes over, and I think that, I mean, even if you went with the under, it would be a hilarious sweat to start off the game with the under on the anthem. I mean, people are just looking for action everywhere. I find that hilarious how you could go over on the anthem, but I would go over. I would lean over just due to the fact that I don't know who's doing the anthem, by the way, but I would lean the over. Looking at Rihanna's first song, I'm going Disturbia. 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 Don't know the words, but I know it's a jam, and I'm going Disturbia. First song. It's gonna. I mean, she's got a plethora of just massive hits, so I'm not sure which direction Rihanna will go, but I think Disturbia it's got to be a top 5 song of hers, so I'll go Rihanna. First song, Disturbia. Again, I haven't touched any of these. I might, just to get a little bit of that comedic sweat going. Gatorade color, I'm going orange. I think the last time the Kansas City Chiefs won, it was orange. I saw a clip of Andy Reid getting soaked in orange Gatorade. So if there's any superstition involved with the Kansas City Chiefs at all, they're going to stick with the orange. I think those are the shortest odds. I think they're at plus 250 for orange Gatorade. Again, these are some props that are very popular in the betting markets, but are just absolutely ridiculous, because you couldn't have a strong narrative. There's nothing to back it up. But if you're looking and if you need to find that itch during the Super Bowl props, those are what I would lean. Some props that I have bet on are player props. And we're starting things off with the middle linebacker on the Kansas City Chiefs, Nick Bolton. And I've got to shout out close friend of the show, Peter Morris, huge Kansas City Chiefs fan. Nick Bolton was the second leading tackler in the NFL this year, had the second most tackles. We know how much the Eagles love to run the ball. They've got a great run game with that triple three-headed monster of Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell, and why can't I think about their leading guy right now? Oh my gosh. Miles Sanders. I apologize. So Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, and Kenneth Gainwell all in the backfield, all can run. And plus their quarterback obviously knows how to move the ball with his feet. So they'll be running the ball, and Nick Bolton will be in on those tackles. So I think the line was set at 9.5 or 10.5. I like the over of both of those. I think this guy can have a 13, 14 tackle game. So Nick Bolton over that 9.5 tackle mark. And also like Patrick Mahomes over the 295. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to establish a run with Pacheco and even Jerick McKinnon. So I like Patrick Mahomes to be slinging it around the pitch. I know that the Eagles have a good secondary. I like Pat Mahomes over 295. I know it's a heavy number, but I can see a 300-yard game from this guy in the air. Patrick Mahomes over 295, and I don't know how much he's going to be able to move with his own legs. So those are the two prop bets that I've bet on so far. So, let's go. I'm fired up. It's Super Bowl Sunday. Hopefully you guys, I'm going to do a post, look forward on TikTok, to predict the score. I'm going to give out $100 cash, and a Daily Intermission hoodie if you can predict the winner and the correct score. So look for that post on TikTok, and yeah, I'm fired up. It's Super Bowl Sunday, Super Bowl weekend. It's finally here, but you know what I'm not fired up about is that the NFL's gone. So I'm assuming that I'm going to move the episodes back to Monday, Friday. Obviously, the NFL season kind of it forced me to move the episodes to Monday, but I'm going to move those to Sunday, and Sunday's easier to get guests on as well. So to record Sunday, release Monday. But yeah. Let's move into quarter two, ladies and gentlemen, because it was the NBA, and the NBA this week was just outrageous. So Wednesday, obviously, we talked. Actually, I didn't talk about Wednesday's trade that happened in Los Angeles. But first, we've got to address the fact that LeBron James is now the NBA's all-time leading scorer, passes Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Incredible. They were hosting OKC at home, and LeBron had all of his family in. Special moment for LeBron James. We got to celebrate him. At times he can be a milk. Embellishes things in the court, but all in all, just one of the greatest players we've ever got to watch in the NBA. And he fades away in the third quarter to hit the. You knew he was going to do it at halftime. I think he had around 20 points at half, and you're like, yeah, this is the game that LeBron will pass Kareem. Kareem was in the building, sitting courtside. So were LeBron's sons. It was just a special moment. I mean, this might be obnoxious to say. I don't mean any disrespect by it. It's actually a compliment. But LeBron James' wife has grown up. She looks fantastic. Savannah, I think that's her name, but she looks just fantastic. And, in the past, I don't know, I guess, when you're having kids and you're going through that gritty stage, but, she looks phenomenal. Throw her in the MILF category. No disrespect to anybody listening or to LeBron. She's just looking very, very solid. But LeBron, yeah, so he's the all-time leading scorer with the phone business. Everybody in the stadium had their phones out recording this moment. Clearly, you'd want to have, some documentation of the fadeaway three, but a lot of people were watching through their screens. Like, I would say move it off to the side and consume it with your own eyes. Anyway, just an odd situation there with the phones. It was funny just watching that famous Jordan clip from the Bulls, and nobody's got a phone. And then now, fast forward 30 years later, and every single person's got a phone. Just times have changed in terms of the consumption and the documentation of certain moments. But I guess the closest I've ever been to, documenting some close-ups in sports, it was with my close buddies John Deacon and Jacob McNutt, and we were at the 17th hole at, what's the course called? St. George's, the 17th at St. George's for the Canadian Open this summer, and the final group is Rory, Tony Finau, and Justin Thomas. I'm not sure if that's any good, ladies and gentlemen, but we were so close to most of the field, at least half the field, kind of making the tee off the 17th. We were right on the tee box. We went there early in the day. It was the best decision we've ever made at a golf tournament. But we were recording all of these guys tee off, and I think I had the phone off to the side. Like, I think I was consuming it with my own eyes and then having the phone kind of off to the side. But a lot of documentation with those guys teeing off. We'll get into the golf in the fourth quarter. But now we got to talk about the trades, because there was the trade deadline on Thursday, and like, holy shit, the NBA is just, it's wild. Like, they're the amount of draft picks, it's comical. It is a little goofy at times, the amount of trades, or the amount of draft picks that are included in some of these trades. Like in 2020, like they're giving out first round picks unprotected in 2029. It's unbelievable. It is truly unbelievable. Some of the compensation moved around in these draft picks, but late Wednesday night we got the news that Russell Westbrook will be traded to the Utah Jazz, and it was a 3-way trade. So Minnesota sent D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, and Jared Vanderbilt to the Los Angeles Lakers. The Utah Jazz sent Mike Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and 3 second-round picks to Minnesota. And Minnesota sent, and the Los Angeles Lakers sent Russell Westbrook, Juan Toscano-Anderson, Damian Jones, and a first-round pick to Utah. So a 3-way trade there. I'm not sure if I'm going to explain those very well, but it's interesting. I think the Lakers got better. I like D'Lo. I think D'Lo's had a good year. Russell Westbrook, maybe he'll be able to find a glimpse of his old self in Utah. Maybe he'll find more buckets in Utah. So an interesting deal there. Obviously, the Lakers getting a bit better, I think. But yeah, that's what kind of sent shockwaves around on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, I guess it was, we woke up. It was late Wednesday night. I woke up Thursday and found out the news, but Kevin Durant and TJ Warren headed to the Phoenix Suns. In return, the Nets would get Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, 3 firsts. Unbelievable. Automatically makes the Phoenix Suns an absolute wagon, a threat to win a championship. I think they were a contender easily before even, trading for Kevin Durant. But now bringing in Kevin Durant to play alongside Chris Paul and Devin Booker, they're just an absolute wagon. I do worry about the health of these guys a little bit. Devin Booker's missed extended periods of time this year with injuries. So was Kevin Durant, and Chris Paul. He's an older dude. So injuries definitely one to look at. But DeAndre Ayton, they're a wagon. But look at this division in the Pacific. Or in the Western Conference, the Pacific Division now has Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. We're not throwing D'Angelo Russell in that. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and now you've got Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, all in the same division. All of those guys I just mentioned in the same division, and they're all chasing the Sacramento Kings, which is just outrageous. But what a trade deadline it has been, and just wild content coming out of the NBA. Just some other moves. Obviously, we'll stick up north in Toronto watching the Raptors Day, because a lot of people had the Toronto Raptors circled, seeing what they might do with OG Anunoby, with Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam, and just other players. What they were going to do with their roster, and Gary Trent was the other one I was thinking of. But they didn't move any of them. They actually were buyers at the deadline. They reacquire their 2016 lottery pick in Jakob Poeltl from the San Antonio Spurs, sending Kem Birch and a couple draft picks back. So I'm not really sure what Jakob Poeltl will do, but I'm not sure the thought process is of Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster here. I think they saw, maybe Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving leave their division, and maybe they thought, maybe it's not time to blow it up. And I know Masai, he's got close connection to these guys, and maybe he just didn't see he didn't see fit. He didn't find a buyer that was willing to pay the price. And I would have been interested, because I know that Memphis and New Orleans were looking at these teams and looking at OG and Anunoby specifically and offering trades. They just didn't get what they wanted. So they were buyers at the deadline. They didn't blow it up, and we'll see what happens with the Toronto Raptors in terms of if they can get things grooving and really make a push for the playoffs. The Knicks acquired Josh Hart from the Portland Trail Blazers, and it's not a huge move. Josh Hart is a guard that can shoot. I think he probably averaged around that 15 mark in points per game. But it's big because Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart are best friends, and they played together at Villanova, so that's exciting, and that's an addition to the backcourt that will be fun to watch for the Knicks. And just a crazy trade deadline. There was a plethora of trades I'm not going to get into. The biggest ones obviously were the three-way deal with Russell Westbrook, and then the Kevin Durant deal that made huge headlines, him going to the Phoenix Suns. But what a wild day it was in the NBA. If you want to go check out all the deals, go check them out. I plan on having some people come on to the podcast, some callers that were bigger into the NBA or just maybe would have more insight to some of these trades. But I mean, nevertheless, that Pacific Division is absolutely loaded, and it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be content city moving forward, as the NBA is just a wild scene. You'd almost wish, let's move into quarter three. We're going to talk about the NHL, but you almost wish the NHL would take a page out of that book, because it is super exciting in terms of players all over the map. I mean, Russell Westbrook signed a 5-year deal in 2017 with the OKC Thunder, one of the biggest stars at that time, and has played for 5 different teams since. I think that's great for content, and anyway, just amazing to consume and to watch. But let's move to the NHL, and we're starting things off. Blockbuster trade: Vladimir Tarasenko for the St. Louis Blues, headed to the New York Rangers in return for Sammy Blais, a prospect and a first-round pick. Great pickup, I think, for the New York Rangers. We'll slide in directly onto that top line with Panarin and Zibanejad. What a great top line that is. The New York Rangers, I think if they can kind of get Shesterkin back to his form from last year, this team, they definitely have the pieces to go on a run. And I was watching them the other night, and Jacob Trouba, the captain for this Rangers team, absolute old school, huge hitter. He starts off the game and he blows up Dylan Dubé, automatic tilt with Chris Tanev, beats him up. And then later on in the game, coming across the middle, Nazem Kadri's got his head down, and he blows him up, helmet off, insta shed with Dylan Dubé, who wanted a little revenge from the hit earlier in the game. Beats the wheels off that guy. 2 fights. I mean, I'm a big fan of Jacob Trouba. I love defensemen that can step up and throw the body. None of them were greasy hits. They were fantastic hits. But I think Gerard Gallant's going to get this team buzzing. I think that they're going to make some noise in that Metro Division, and they could be a dark horse moving into the playoffs. Now, I had to talk about this because I was fucking losing it watching these clips pop up throughout the week. So, Dallas Stars fan, he has a mullet haircut, and earrings, and you must have all seen this. He got interviewed by Stars media people, he was getting interviewed by Stars media folk on the concourse pre-game. And, he was having fun. He was talking in a hick accent, and people thought nothing of it. Obviously, he did his interview, and then he went to his seats. But then another clip comes up, and it goes viral because he's in a shouting match. And anybody that uses the N-word is obviously clearly disrespectful. But if you're a white guy with a mullet using the N-word, you deserve to be knocked out. It's so obnoxious. It looks terrible. Anyway, so this guy is in a kind of a shouting match with the guy, and he's saying you won't do anything, and then the guy punches him in the jaw. I was beyond upset with the punch that he threw in the jaw, and I'm sure you guys have all seen this clip. If you haven't, look up Dallas Star fans get into a fight. He throws the biggest muffin of a punch, nothing behind it. 99% of the planet is eating that and knocking the guy out, or swinging back and at least, getting a little bit more heat on it. But it was just, the guy's got to put a little bit more emphasis in that because he's the higher ground. He's got the advantage. It was an embarrassing punch. But then he kind of pins him down. It's a weird interaction, but there's a guy with a Dallas Stars jersey. I think he was wearing a Jamie Benn jersey. And by the way, just completely disrespected Jamie Benn because Jamie Benn's one of the toughest guys in the NHL. And he would have put up a better fight than that. But yeah, the mullet guy, I had to bring him up. We all know who I'm talking about with the mullet guy getting not knocked out, but taking a muffin to the face and then getting pinned down for using the N-word and doing all of that nonsense at the Stars game. Interesting situation. So Dallas so Vegas has had an interesting year this year. And, they lost their captain, Mark Stone, for the season due to injury. I think he's going to have surgery. Not sure on what. Jack Eichel's been quiet this year. And now that Logan Thompson, he left the game last night against the Wild. That's huge. He was an all-star goaltender for them. And obviously with Robin Leonard dealing with, his bankruptcy and his snake farm and not playing this year, Logan Thompson's been really big. He's got a great story. Obviously, he played at Brock University in Ontario. He was a university goaltender. Now he's the star goaltender for the Vegas Golden Knights, but he left with an injury, so that could be problematic for the Vegas Golden Knights. We're in a really tight division there in the Pacific Division, so that's worth monitoring. The injuries have been just littered around the league, and we'll name off a few here. Cale Makar took a greasy hit from Jeff Carter. I'm not sure if it was an intentional hit or not, but he ran into his head, kind of going behind the net. So Cale Makar is going to miss, I don't think, a huge period of time, but definitely going to be missing a few games after the hit to the head with Jeff Carter. So that's problematic for the Avalanche. The Avalanche are just struggling right now. They're going to make a run and potentially, I'm not going to guarantee that they'll win the division, but the Colorado Avalanche are certainly a team that's they're going to be a playoff team, but they've been dealing with some really tough injuries. Obviously, there was a McKinnon injury for a little bit. I think Randon missed some time. Obviously, Landeskog has missed the majority of the year, and now you're looking at Cale Makar missing some time. So just tough news out of Colorado. The most unique injury, I should say, the most shocking injury in the NHL right now is Rasmus Andersson, star defenseman. I don't want to say star defenseman, but he's a minute muncher for the Calgary Flames. Rasmus Andersson struck by a vehicle while riding a scooter in Detroit. So he was going to a team dinner outside of the hotel. You picked up one of those scooters that you can rent, and it was struck by a vehicle. So he's out. Not sure how long. I'm not sure the injuries he sustained during that period of time. But Rasmus Andersson hit by a vehicle, will miss some time, and he was on a scooter. So thoughts and prayers going out to Rasmus Andersson. Hopefully a quick recovery there. And I had to talk about my guy, Jeff O'Neill. So if you guys are unfamiliar with Jeff O'Neill, he's a former NHL player, played for Carolina and in Toronto, and he's a radio host of one of my favorite shows to listen to out of Toronto. And the O-Dog, he was a victim of a crime that is very prevalent right now in Ontario, Canada, where he had his I think he drives a Range Rover. He had his Range Rover stolen during the night. And I don't know how people are doing this, but thieves are like programming different keys and different ways of starting up these cars, and they are stealing them, and they're getting them on transport ships, and they're shipping them over to across the continent, or across the world, to Asian countries and different countries around the world. So like how is this not being stopped? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just unbelievable to me that like you can just steal a Range Rover and then get it on a ship undetected, and that's just being stolen. It's just unbelievable to me that people are getting away with this crime, and it's happening. I mean, we heard Mitch Marner. We talked about that months ago when that happened to Mitch Marner. I think just in broad daylight, he was just at gunpoint. Was just like, get out, we're taking your car. It's unbelievable right now. It's a really, like, I mean, I think hundreds of cars a week are being stolen in Ontario, especially in that very populated hub of Southern Ontario. So scary moment for the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill. We're thinking about him. Obviously, hopefully, I don't really know how insurance works with that if your car was stolen, but his golf clubs were in the car as well. So that's unfortunate for Mr. O'Neill. But I know that show is sponsored by TaylorMade, so I think TaylorMade will be able to hook him up, get them all dialed in for the season with new golf clubs. But ladies and gentlemen, that'll conclude the NHL. Obviously, the trade deadline, a few weeks away, about 3 weeks away. So fired up for that. And we're just getting things going after the All-Star break. So we'll get some more news for Tuesday. But the NHL, and it's time. We're going to move into quarter four and talk about some PGA Tour action. Obviously, the Waste Management going on, and we'll talk a little bit about some UFC as well. But Scottsdale, Arizona, obviously hosting the Super Bowl and the Waste Management Open. The Waste Management Open, I talked about it last episode. It's just a phenomenal event. It's a bucket list event. People, do their bachelor parties there. The 16th hole it's a stadium par 3 that holds over 20,000 people. They're just getting boozed from, sun up to sundown on that hole. You can make noise during the golfer swings, and then just, the event has around 200,000 people per day just walking around the ground. So it's just a phenomenal event. But day one was delayed due to a frost delay. I didn't know they got frost on the ground in the desert, but it was a 2-hour delay. But we look at the leaderboard right now, and Nick Taylor and Adam Hadwin, 2 Canadian boys, sit at the top. Xander Schauffele, who I ended up going with in the one and done, finds himself a stroke behind him at -4. Some notable names: John Rahm, Max Homa at -3. It's going to be Sheng Jae -1, Tony Finau, Matt Fitzpatrick. I mean, it's going to be just a phenomenal finish and a phenomenal week. John Rahm at -3 is scary, very scary. A couple guys, a couple over notables: Patrick Cantlay, Cam Young, and Rory McIlroy finished 2 over. But it's just, I honestly highly recommend tuning into this tournament. If you're not a huge golf fan, I think you will really enjoy this tournament here in Arizona. So it'll be Ace Watch on 16 and $3.7 million to the winner this week. So I think we'll see the cream rise to the top here in the next couple of days. But again, another frost delay. Or not a frost delay. It'll be the guys didn't finish their rounds on day one, so they will finish their first rounds on Friday morning, and then we'll get into the Friday morning or the Friday second rounds as those are finished. But really excited about the Waste Management next week to the Genesis, and maybe Tiger Woods. Potentially Tiger Woods next week. But the UFC, big fights this week in Perth, Australia. Shout out to Adam from Perth, Australia, who did call in yesterday. Won't be able to use his tape, so we'll get him on the next call-in episode. We'll get him to call in. Great accent from Perth, Australia. Shout out to Adam. But Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski, 2 belt holders. Volkanovski moving up to fight Islam Makhachev for the belt. Fired up for this fight. I've got Alexander Volkanovski by knockout, by TKO, so it pays a bunch of money. He's a big underdog in the fight. Obviously, Islam has run through division, just absolutely rinsed Charles Oliveira, who had been the belt holder for a long time. I think 11 fights in a row. So huge weekend in sports, guys. What a week it's been. Everybody, I hope you've enjoyed. I do apologize about the late release of the podcast. But make sure you give it a 5-star. Give it a written review as well. Make sure you're on the socials. Make sure you go bet your score on the TikTok. And listen, everybody, enjoy your Super Bowl weekends. Enjoy the golf. Enjoy the UFC fights, and we'll catch you again on Tuesday. Everybody, have a fantastic weekend, and we'll catch you guys on Tuesday.